I never thought I'd have to defend my reproductive choices to anyone, let alone my in-laws. But here I was sitting at the mahogany dining table for our monthly family dinner, watching my mother-in-law Eleanor's face turn that familiar shade of disapproval as she cooed over my 5-year-old daughter Lily. Such a precious angel, Eleanor sighed, smoothing Lily's dark curls. She needs a sibling, you know. It's cruel to raise an only child. Her words carried the weight of countless similar conversations, each one cutting deeper than the last. My husband Michael squeezed my hand under the table but remained silent. We'd agreed long ago that I would handle these conversations my way, when I was ready. Still, the tension in his jaw showed how much he hated these monthly interrogations. "We're happy with our family as it is," I replied, the practiced words feeling hollow after so many repetitions. I focused on cutting Lily's chicken into bite-sized pieces, avoiding Eleanor's piercing gaze. "Happy?" My sister-in-law, Amanda, snorted from across the table. "Is that what you call it, Kate? Making my brother settle for just one child when he's always wanted a big family?" I set down my fork, my appetite vanishing. Michael had indeed wanted multiple children. We both had. But life had other plans I wasn't ready to share with his judgmental family. The memory of that day in the doctor's office still felt raw, even 3 years later. "Kate's not making me settle for anything." Michael finally spoke up, his voice tight. "Our family planning is between us." Eleanor dabbed her lips with her napkin, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. "Darling, you've always said you wanted 4 children. Remember how you used to talk about coaching Little League, having a whole team of your own?" I could feel tears threatening, but I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Yes, Michael had dreamed of a house full of children. Yes, he would have been an amazing coach. And yes, it broke my heart that I couldn't give him that future. "Times change, Mom," Michael said. "People change. Dreams change. Only when they're forced to," Amanda muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Only when someone makes them change." The implication hung heavy in the air. I was the villain in their story, the selfish wife denying their precious son his deepest desire. If they only knew how many nights I cried myself to sleep, how many treatments we tried, how many specialists we consulted. "More wine, anyone?" Michael's father George asked, trying to break the tension. But Eleanor wasn't finished. "I ran into Lisa Thompson at the grocery store yesterday," she announced, naming Michael's high school girlfriend. "Her 4th is due in June. She always understood the importance of family." That was it. Something inside me snapped. 3 years of biting my tongue, of protecting my privacy, of enduring their subtle and not so subtle jabs. It all boiled over in an instant. "Mom," Michael warned, but I was already standing up. "You want to talk about family?" My voice shook slightly. "Let's talk about how you define family. Because from where I'm standing, family means supporting each other. Family means respect. Family means understanding that some things are private." Eleanor's eyes widened. In 15 years of knowing her, I'd never raised my voice. "Kate dear, I'm only thinking of Michael? Of Lily? Or of yourself and what you think a family should look like." I picked up my daughter, who had gone very quiet. "Lily, sweetie, go play in the den for a minute. Mommy needs to talk to Grandma." After Lily left, I turned back to face my in-laws. Michael stood beside me, his hand on my lower back. Support I'd always had but rarely needed to display so publicly. "For years, I've listened to your comments, your suggestions, your not-so-subtle hints about my failings as a wife and mother." My voice grew stronger with each word. "You've never once asked why we stopped at 1 child. You've never considered that maybe, just maybe, there might be reasons beyond your assumptions about my selfishness." Amanda opened her mouth to speak, but Michael silenced her with a look. "Let her finish." I pulled out my phone, hands trembling slightly as I opened my medical records app. "Since you're so invested in our family planning, let me share something with you." I placed the phone in front of Eleanor, watching as her eyes scanned the diagnosis, the procedures, the long list of failed treatments. The color drained from her face as she read. Oh dear. 3 years ago, after complications from Lily's birth, I had to have emergency surgery," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "The damage was extensive, irreversible. We tried everything. Multiple surgeries, experimental treatments. Nothing worked." The dining room fell silent except for the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. George looked down at his plate, uncomfortable. Amanda's righteous anger had melted into something that looked suspiciously like shame. Why didn't you tell us? Eleanor's voice had lost its usual edge of judgment. Because it was private, Michael answered for me. Because Kate needed time to heal, physically and emotionally. And because, quite frankly, Mom, you hadn't earned the right to know. The words hung in the air, heavy with years of unspoken frustration. I watched as Eleanor's carefully maintained facade cracked just a little, but this was only the beginning. They didn't know about the papers in my purse yet, the ones that would either heal our family or break it apart completely. I could hear Lily's cartoon playing in the den, the cheerful music a stark contrast to the heavy silence in the dining room. My hand rested on my purse, feeling the weight of the papers inside. Michael gave me an almost imperceptible nod. He knew what was coming. There's something else you need to know, I said, my voice steadier now. Something we've been working on for the past year. Eleanor's hands trembled as she passed my phone back to me. The fight had drained out of her, replaced by something that looked like guilt. Kate, we didn't know. If we had. If you had known, you would have what? Michael cut in, years of suppressed anger finally surfacing. Treated my wife with basic respect. Not accused her of being selfish every chance you got. Not compared her to my high school girlfriend. Amanda shifted uncomfortably in her seat. We were just concerned about. About what? Michael's voice rose. About your nephew or niece having a sibling, or about having another grandchild to show off at your country club. Mom. That's not fair, George protested weakly, but his eyes wouldn't meet ours. I reached into my purse and pulled out the thick envelope. My hands were steady now as I placed it on the table. We've been working with an agency, I said quietly. And a lawyer. Eleanor's eyes widened. What kind of agency? A surrogacy agency. The words hung in the air as I pulled out the contract. We've been matched with a surrogate. She's been through the process before, has 2 children of her own. The psychological evaluations are complete, medical screening done. We're ready to move forward. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor stared at the papers a thing might bite her. Amanda leaned forward, her earlier hostility replaced by genuine curiosity. The embryo transfer is scheduled for next month, Michael added, his voice softening. We used eggs I had frozen before my surgery, just in case. There's a 60% chance of success. But that's wonderful news, Eleanor stammered, reaching for the contract with manicured hands. Why didn't you tell us sooner? We could have helped, we could have. Could have what? I interrupted, keeping my voice level. Criticized our choices. Told us it wasn't natural. Compared us to Lisa Thompson and her 4 natural pregnancies. The flush that crept up Eleanor's neck told me I hit the mark. She'd already opened her mouth, no doubt to do exactly that, before catching herself. The thing is, Michael said, taking my hand, we didn't tell you because we needed to do this our way. Without judgment, without pressure, without weekly updates at the country club about your son's fertility journey. Eleanor flinched at that last part. We all knew how she loved to share family news with her social circle, regardless of whether it was hers to share. We're telling you now, I continued, because the contract is signed. The decisions are made. And because you need to understand something. I leaned forward, making sure I had their full attention. This baby, if we're blessed enough to have one, will be just as much ours as Lily is. They will be your grandchild in every way that matters. But if you ever make them feel different or less than because of how they came into this world, that will be the last time you see any of your grandchildren. The threat landed like a physical blow. Eleanor's hand flew to her throat, clutching her ever-present pearls. You wouldn't. We would, Michael said firmly, just like we've been prepared to walk away every time you've attacked Kate over the past 3 years. The only difference is, now you know why we've been so adamant about our choices. George cleared his throat. Son, that seems a bit extreme. Your mother just wants. What Mom wants stopped being the priority the day I married Kate. Michael cut in. My family, my wife and children, they come first. Always. I watched Eleanor's face as the reality of the situation sank in. The carefully maintained facade of the proper society grandmother cracked further, revealing something raw and real underneath. She looked down at the contract in her hands, then back at me. 60%, she said softly. Those are good odds. I nodded, feeling the first hint of hope in this conversation. better than we had before. And if it doesn't work the first time, we're prepared to try again. It's not cheap, Michael added pointedly. But we've saved. We've planned. We don't need help or advice or opinions. What we need is support. Real support, not criticism disguised as concern. Amanda, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly stood up. Without a word, she walked around the table and wrapped her arms around me in an awkward but sincere hug. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've been awful to you." The gesture was so unexpected, so genuine, that I felt tears welling up. I hugged her back, remembering the close relationship we'd had before Lily's birth complications changed everything. "Lily," Eleanor said suddenly, rising from her chair. I need to. I understood. She's in the den. Maybe you could start making things right with the grandchild you already have." Eleanor nodded, dabbing at her eyes with her napkin as she hurried toward the sound of cartoons. From the den, we heard Lily's delighted grandma and Eleanor's shaky laugh. I looked down at the contract still on the table, then at Michael. We prepared for so many possible reactions: anger, rejection, more criticism. We hadn't prepared for this, the beginning of understanding, the first cracks in the walls of judgment that had surrounded us for so long. But as I heard Lily chattering away to her grandmother about her cartoon, I realized that maybe, just maybe, this could be a new beginning for all of us. The real test, though, was still to come. The next 6 weeks were a blur of doctor's appointments, hormone treatments for our surrogate, Jessica, and surprisingly civil text messages from Eleanor. She'd taken to sending daily photos of nursery ideas and gender-neutral baby clothes, each one accompanied by a careful "only if you like this," of course. The morning of the embryo transfer, my phone buzzed with an unexpected message from Eleanor. "Lighting a candle at church for all of you today. Please let us know if you need anything at all." I showed the message to Michael as we sat in the fertility clinic's waiting room. "Your mom's really trying," I said softly. He squeezed my hand. About time. Jessica emerged from the procedure room an hour later, smiling despite looking tired. "All done," she announced. "Now we just wait and see if your little one wants to stick around." The 2-week wait was excruciating. I threw myself into work, tried to focus on Lily's upcoming school play. Anything to keep my mind off the possibility of another failure. Eleanor, surprisingly, turned out to be an unexpected source of support. "Come over for dinner," she texted one evening when I was particularly anxious. No pressure, no questions about the transfer. Just family dinner. Lily misses her grandma. And true to her word, when we arrived, there was no mention of surrogacy or babies. Instead, Eleanor had set up a craft station where she and Lily spent the evening making friendship bracelets. I watched in amazement as my formerly perfectly manicured mother-in-law got glitter glue all over her designer blouse without a single complaint. The day of the pregnancy test arrived, cold and clear. Jessica had agreed to come to our house for the results. As we waited for the clinic to call, Eleanor and Amanda showed up unannounced, carrying breakfast pastries and coffee. "We can leave if you want privacy," Amanda said quickly. We wanted you to know you're not alone." Before I could respond, my phone rang. The room fell silent as I put it on speaker. "Kate?" Dr. Chen's familiar voice filled the room. "I have your results." I gripped Michael's hand. Eleanor and Amanda huddled together on the couch. Jessica sat in the armchair, hands clasped in her lap. "Congratulations," Dr. Chen said warmly. "The test is positive. Strong numbers, too." The room erupted in tears and hugs. Through my own tears, I saw Eleanor embrace Jessica, whispering what looked like "thank you" over and over. Amanda was already on her phone, presumably texting her father the news. But the most beautiful moment came later that evening. After everyone had left, Lily climbed into my lap with her serious 5-year-old expression. "Mommy," she said, "Grandma told me there's a baby growing in Miss Jessica's tummy. And it's my brother or sister." "That's right, sweetie," I replied, my heart tightening. We'd explained surrogacy to her in simple terms, but I worried she might feel confused or displaced. "And Grandma said," Lily continued, "that means Miss Jessica is like a special angel helping our family grow, and that I'm going to be the best big sister ever." I looked up to see Eleanor standing in the doorway, watching us with tears in her eyes. In that moment, I realized how far we'd come from those tense dinner table confrontations. The months that followed weren't perfect. Eleanor occasionally slipped into her old habits, making comments about natural childbirth or suggesting we name the baby after her. But now when she did, she caught herself, apologized, and tried to do better. Amanda threw herself into aunt duties with unexpected enthusiasm, taking Lily for special big sister prep days and coordinating with Jessica to document every moment of the pregnancy for us. When our son was born on a warm spring morning, Eleanor and Amanda were in the waiting room. They brought Lily, dressed in her big sister finally, t-shirt and enough snacks to feed the entire maternity ward. As I watched Eleanor hold her grandson for the first time, her perfect makeup streaked with tears, I remembered her words from that confrontational dinner months ago. Such a precious angel. He is, isn't he? I said softly. She looked up, understanding flowing between us. Yes, she whispered. But Kate, I wasn't just talking about the baby. She reached for my hand. I'm so sorry it took me so long to see what was right in front of me. You've given our family so much more than just grandchildren. You've taught us what family really means. Lily scrambled onto the hospital bed beside me, peering at her brother with curious eyes. Can I tell them his name now, Mommy? Please?